It is Monday. Welcome to the Build Log. I am Maki, this is episode 29, and this is the Market Desk. Numbers, what they actually say, and what to watch this week.
I am Kai, and before we start, I have to declare an interest, because the subject of today's episode is the company that makes the model that makes this show. So if you were planning to accuse us of bias, please do, but do it knowing we said it first.
We say it up front, and then we treat the numbers the way we would treat anybody else's, which in this case means the skeptical read gets equal time, because there is a good one. For the first time, a frontier AI lab has claimed an operating profit. Anthropic, second quarter of 2026.
And here is why we are spending an episode on it instead of a sentence, because there are 3 different numbers going around. They're being quoted interchangeably, and only one of them is a result.
Let us do the latter. What is reported? What is projected? What is somebody else's disclosure? And what is argument? Reported. Bloomberg, the 14th of August, working from investor documents. Preliminary second quarter revenue of more than $11.5 billion, against $4.73 billion in the first quarter, and $787 million in the same quarter last year.
$787 million to $11.5 billion in 12 months. That is not growth. That is a different company wearing the old company's name badge.
A completely different company. Also reported, and I want the exact wording, positive adjusted operating income. Bloomberg gives no dollar figure for it. And it says deliberations are ongoing and the figures could be revised.
Which is the least quotable sentence in financial journalism, and therefore the one nobody quoted?
Nobody quoted it. Now, the projected number, and this is the one I want to be careful about because it is everywhere. $10.9 billion in revenue, $559 million in operating profit.
That is a forecast. That is what people expected the quarter to look like. It has been reprinted for weeks as though it were the scoreboard.
And you can prove it is a forecast from the inside, which is the satisfying part. The projection said $10.9 billion. The preliminary actual came in above 11.5. If the revenue line moved, you cannot keep quoting the profit line that was calculated underneath it.
The forecast was wrong in the good direction, and everyone kept the number anyway. That is the whole media diet in one story.
The entire media diet. So, profitable, probably. $559 million profitable? Unestablished. Those are different claims, and this episode is not going to merge them. Third pile. Somebody else's disclosure, which is often where the real numbers live. SpaceX filed a prospectus, and because Anthropic is a customer, it appears in it. $1.25 billion per month for compute. Access to Colossus 1. Roughly $45 billion in total, running through May 2029.
$1.25 billion a month. I want to sit with that, because it is easy to say quickly. That is $15 billion a year in rent, before anybody has written a line of code or answered a single question.
And notice the mechanism. We know that number not because Anthropic disclosed it, but because the vendor had to. That is what going public does to an entire supply chain. Your customers lose the ability to keep quiet about you.
The most reliable financial information about a private AI company came from a rocket company's paperwork. I do not have a joke for that. That is just the shape of the thing.
And there is a reported efficiency figure that explains where the margin turn came from. Compute cost per dollar of revenue, 71 cents in the first quarter, 56 cents in the second.
So the story is not that revenue got big, it is that every dollar got cheaper to serve. 15 cents of margin appearing in one quarter is the entire difference between a loss and a profit.
Which is exactly where the skeptical case plants its flag. That is the first half of this story. 3 piles of numbers, and 1 margin turn. Before the second half, where we get into whether that turn is real, one quick thing. The skeptical case, and I am going to attribute it properly because it is an argument, not a finding. Ed Zitron has written that the profitability is engineered. 3 planks. 1. The SpaceX arrangement includes discounted rates during the ramp-up period, and the ramp-up period overlaps the quarter being called profitable. 2. Enterprise prepayments and prepaid token credits can be recognized early, pulling revenue forward. 3. That training spend may have been throttled, pushing cost into later quarters.
And the honest thing to say is that all 3 of those are plausible, and none of them are proven because there is nothing to check them against. No audit, no filing, no 10K.
That is the correct position, and I want to hold it carefully. I am not endorsing the argument. I am saying it is unfalsifiable with the information that exists, and so is the company's version. Both sides are arguing about a number neither of us can open.
We are reviewing a restaurant nobody has been allowed inside. We can smell it from the street, and we are all writing very confident reviews.
From the street. But I think there is a deeper question underneath the accounting one, and it is the reason this matters beyond one company's quarter. Is compute a cost of goods sold, or is it an investment? Because those are wildly different businesses, and the same spending can be filed as either.
Say more, because I think that sounds technical, and it is actually the whole argument.
If compute is cost of goods, then serving a customer costs money every single time, forever, and the margin is what it is. That is a utility. If compute is investment, then a training run is a factory you build once and sell out of for years, and the early losses are construction.
And every AI company would very much like you to believe the second one, while the monthly bill from the rocket company keeps arriving like the first one.
The efficiency figure is genuinely interesting here because 71 cents down to 56 cents is the utility story improving. Serving got cheaper. That is real operational progress, and it should not be dismissed just because the label above it says adjusted.
So the fair summary is, the serving business is getting better, and the question of what the training business costs is still behind a door.
Which brings us to the contrast, and the thing to actually watch. OpenAI. Valued at $852 billion after a March equity round, filed a confidential draft registration statement with the SEC on the 8th of June, and in August, repurchased roughly $7 billion of employee shares at that same $852 billion valuation.
Same price as March, not higher, which for a company in this sector is a fairly loud silence.
Very loud. And a tender offer is generally read as the opposite of an imminent listing. If a public offering were weeks away, you would let employees sell into it rather than buying them out first.
So one company is publishing a profit nobody can audit, and the other is doing the thing companies do when the audit is not coming yet either.
That is the honest state of the sector. Enormous revenue, genuine efficiency gains, and no filed accounts anywhere. Everything we have said today is preliminary, projected, third-party, or contested. What to watch this week, and these are the specific things that would actually change the picture. 1. Whether Anthropic's preliminary figure gets revised in either direction. Bloomberg flagged that it might, and a revision would tell you more than the original number did.
2. Whether anyone publishes a dollar figure for that adjusted operating income, and whether they say what was adjusted out. The adjective is the entire story, and so far, the adjective is unexplained.
3. Any further SpaceX disclosure, because that is currently the most reliable window into this company's actual cost base, and it exists by accident.
4. Any movement on the OpenAI S1? The moment one of these companies files real accounts, everybody else's framing becomes checkable, and a lot of confident numbers are going to have a difficult afternoon.
A very difficult afternoon. Before the last thought, the rest of the tape, because two things happened this week that bear directly on everything we just said about margin. XAI shipped Grok 4.6 on the 12th. It matches GPT 5.6 Sol Max on the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index at the same price, $2 in, $6 out per million tokens. Context extended to 500,000.
Same capability, same price. That is not a launch. That is a stalemate with a press release attached.
And Google shipped Gemini 3.7 Flash, with frontier code going from 34.4% to 43.6%, and deep SWE from 49 to 65.3%.
Those are big jumps on a Flash tier. The cheap model got materially better, which historically is the thing that drags the price of everything else down with it.
Now, connect that to the margin story. The entire profit case rests on cost per revenue dollar falling from 71 cents to 56. That is the cost side improving.
And the revenue side is a market where two labs just landed on the identical price for the identical benchmark score, and the budget tier is closing the gap from underneath.
Which is the pressure nobody put in a headline this week. Compute getting cheaper improves your margin. Competitors matching your price and your score removes your ability to keep the improvement.
You can win the efficiency race and still watch the whole prize shrink while you are running it.
Last thought. It would be easy for us to run this as a victory lap, given who makes the model we use, and it would be equally easy to run it as a takedown, because that performs better.
And both would be lazy in the same way, which is deciding the conclusion before opening the numbers. The actual position is less satisfying. Something real happened. The framing around it is doing work, and the evidence to settle it does not exist yet.
A frontier lab served its customers more cheaply than it did 3 months ago. That part looks true, and it is not nothing. Whether that constitutes profit depends on an accounting question nobody is obliged to answer until somebody goes public.
So we will be here when the filing lands, holding this episode, checking what we said, which is either journalism or a hostage situation, depending on how it goes.
That is the market desk. Sources in the description, including the skeptical piece, because you should read the argument we described, rather than take our summary of it.
Thank you for watching. We will see you tomorrow when hopefully somebody's accountant has had a long night.